42.9% unemployment, the real unemployment rate, not 5.5%. Hi, this is John Brooker presenting for the School of the White Crane. David Stockman reveals the actual unemployment rate June 30th, 2015. David Stockman, former budget director under President Reagan, contends that the real unemployment rate is not the now meaningless ones used by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but a more realistic one calculated as the labor hours worked by all adults 16 to 68. The current numbers have become so politicized that they are no longer a useful measure. So if we calculate 2,000 hours per adult working per year as full employment, the real number of unemployment is 43% rather than the 5.5% reported officially. How many adult Americans are there? 210 million. How many are not working? 93 million. How can it be that there are boom times in Washington, D.C. and recession in most of America? The government is taking record amounts of money for spending on government jobs. They can only take such money from the productive side, the 60% who are working. It is logical then that there are 40% of the American people living off the working Americans. Thus we see the government growing at all levels, and the free market side steadily bearing a greater and greater burden. The current numbers do not reflect the actual number of people unemployed and are not reflective of a global economy. They represent that the government is deceiving first itself and the American people. They are using statistics to lie. Of course, the administration wants to look good to the American people. But to gain the trust of the American people, they have to become trustworthy. Sadly, this is not the case, even though after his election, Barack Hussein Obama enjoyed 70% favorability with the American people. From David Stockman's blog, we read, 80 years on from the Keynes' incomprehensible ode to status economics and thoroughgoing protectionism, the idea of state management of the business cycle in one country is even more preposterous. Potential labor supply is a function of the global labor cost curve and now comes in atomized form as hours, gigs, and temp agency contractual bits, not Census Bureau headcounts. In fact, the Census Bureau survey takers and the BLS numbers crunchers have not the foggiest idea as to what the real world's potential labor force computes to, and how much of it is deployed on any given day, month, or quarter. Accordingly, printing money and pegging interest rates in pursuit of full employment, which is the essence of the Yellen version of monetary central planning, is completely nonsensical. Likewise, the Fed's current soft target of 5.2% on the U3 unemployment rate is downright ridiculous. When in the year 2015, you have 93 million adults not in the labor force, of which only half are retired and receiving Social Security benefits, and a U3 computational method that counts as employed anyone who works only a few hours per week, then what you have in the resulting fraction is noise, pure and simple. The U3 unemployment rate as a proxy for full employment does not even make it as primitive grade school economics. At the present time, there are 210 million adult Americans between the ages of 16 and 68, to take a plausible measure of the potential workforce. That amounts to 420 billion potential labor hours. If we accept the convention that all adults are at least theoretically capable of holding a full-time job, 2,000 hours per year, and pulling their share of society's need for production and work effort. By contrast, during 2014, only 240 billion hours were actually supplied to the U.S. economy, according to the BLS estimates. Technically, therefore, there are 180 billion unemployed labor hours, meaning the real unemployment rate was 42.9%, not 5.5%. Yes, we have to allow for non-working wives, students, the disabled, early retirees, and coupon clippers. We also have drifters, grifters, welfare cheats, bums, and people between jobs enrolled in training programs, on sabbaticals, and much else. And the same thing is true for almost every single factor that drives the true hours based on the unemployment rate. Front and center is a massive explosion of student debt, now clocking in at 1.3 trillion compared to less than 300 billion only a decade ago. This is because the government has decided to be the sole supplier of educational loans. So we can see how the college lending spree has skyrocketed. In 2010, the federal government expanded its role in the student loan market, making only direct loans instead of loan guarantees. That means before, when the banks loaned the money, they would guarantee it. Preliminary data show that in the academic year 2011-12, it issued 93% of all student loans. So in other words, they have developed a monopoly. So student loan debt now exceeds credit card debt and other common household debt, such as auto loans and home equity loans as well. The point is not simply that this debt bomb is going to explode in the years ahead. The larger point is that for better or worse, Washington has made a policy choice to keep upwards of 20 million workers out of the labor force and to subsidize them as students. And unfortunately, their debt is not forgivable. You cannot bankrupt student debt. Whether millions of these debt serfs will get any real earnings enhancing benefits out of this education is an open question, one that leans heavily toward not likely in either this lifetime or the next. First, the real unemployment rate is not 5.5%. The U3 number is an absolute and utterly obsolete joke. Secondly, the actual deployment rate of America's 420 billion potential labor hours is overwhelmingly a function of domestic social policy and global labor markets, not the rate of money market interest. And finally, the Fed is powerless to do anything about the real labor utilization rate anyway. The only tub its lunatic money-printing policies are filling is that of Wall Street speculators. So from David Stockman's blog, we get a more realistic picture of the government's folly. Currently, it has transferred through quantitative easing over $3 trillion to politically connected rich people in America. In this way, the American public is unaware of how shaky the investments they have are in the stock market as well. How about shrink the government and keep them and their ilk from meddling in the economy? This video is a production of the SchoolOfTheWhiteCrane.com, produced by John Brooker. You can contact us at SchoolOfTheWhiteCrane@gmail.com. Please go to the home page. You can see any current events we are having here locally in the Portland-Beaverton area. Also, we would Enjoy hearing your comments on this video. It's also posted at True Family Values TV on YouTube. Thanks again for listening.